Ladies and gentlemen. All right. We in there. Okay. What's up, guys? Those of you that were just on with me, we had a CPI session exclusively in the Tradetopia exchange. So anyone that's in there, you guys have access to that. So you guys should be up right now. We took this one live. Of course, I didn't fucking record because that would have been too logical. But yeah, we're starting to see this really push through. Stops are looking good here. Markets are looking good. I'm going to go ahead and actually tighten up here. At this point in time, also, I think we're in a good place where if you wanted to take some partials, if that fits your plan, I don't think it's a bad place to do so either. So something to consider as well. I don't understand why, but okay. Now it should be relatively quick, up to speed, nice and ready to roll. Okay, perfect. So yeah, if you guys were on with me in the session that we just did here, then awesome. You guys should be looking at pretty good numbers in your accounts right now. The markets were setting up really nicely, so things are looking good. Of course, you know, why would that load when it's supposed to? That's asking for way too much. Right now, so to give you guys an update, we took a shakeout setup for shorts on Dow, and we have seen this move along and play out pretty nicely. So I like what we're getting so far. I've moved my stop into profit now just because we've seen pretty good demand. There is a possibility that we see the market, for example, with Dow, maybe it wants to sweep some of this before it makes the next drop. So we could see it go up and then down. On MYM, it looks a little different. So depending on kind of your perspective and your bias with the market, you could manage this a little differently. Because like if you guys notice, we kind of see a little pump up here and then a drop. So this actually kind of looks like a different setup in itself. So I can totally see that. I could see us maybe driving up one more time and then working our way down, kind of like trading out of here. So this might be what the market could target. And then that would just reintroduce basically a totally different trade. But what happened and what the trade looked like this morning is basically this. Okay, this is just sucking. But we had the market finally after, and we talked about this yesterday as well and on Monday, but we hadn't really cleared this external liquidity. So we had been kind of trading below this, trading lightly over here. And so I was saying like, okay, we're going to break through that at some point. And then depending on what the market looks like, we could look for shorts after the fact. So once it did that with CPI just now, and those of you that were on the Zoom saw it play by play. We saw it make the high. We saw it pull back. And then we were just kind of waiting to see, okay, will the market do a typical break, retest, lure in buyers before we see everything drop? Sound is kind of choppy. Really? Okay. Morning. All right. You know what? Let's see if that helps. Okay. Yeah, let me know if the audio is better now. Because if it's just like not good at all, then obviously, we can't be having all that. Thoughts on oils around buys on 64. All right, we can take a look. Okay, so let me do something here. What I'm gonna do first, before I do that, give me a second. I forgot I didn't even share this in the school. I just kind of went live. All right, so obviously we're not live on Zoom anymore. Yeah. All right. All right, here we go. And there we go. Good on my end. Seems better at the moment. Perfect. Okay. So, like I was mentioning, we're seeing some pretty good demand over here. The market kind of chopping up and down. So, seeing maybe New York Open kind of come back into this range wouldn't totally surprise me. Same thing here with NASDAQ, right? NQ, we see some sideways movement. The market works its way up. So, maybe we get one of these types of setups. But the reality is we are trading within a range already. So we're still trading within this range. So let's zoom out, and we need to consider the facts. So bullish, price trades above. There's little demand up here, but the reality is that we're bullish. Like that's just the truth. So the shorts here, especially this trade that I was looking at, and I said, what did I say, guys, on the Zoom stream? It's lagging again. What the fuck? All right. So at this point, zooming out across the board, whether it's Dow, whether it's NQ, we're not seeing tons of demand up here. So that gives me more confidence when this is working its way down. And the only thing that I think we want to see is what has more incentive. So is there more incentive for the market to rebalance CPI, target liquidity, or do we have more to work its way down to here? Same thing with Dow. So at this point, I like the shorts. I think that there's a lot of proof that the market doesn't necessarily want to trade up here. The initial move, especially just seeing how quickly it goes up and back down, this, in my opinion, is showing more signs of little demand than high demand up here. So the only way, I think, not the only way, that's pretty dangerous speaking and thinking, but the only downside to this trade would be that New York Open just brings it back up and then makes the drop, which I could see, totally a possibility. So, but right now, if you think about it and you're following the natural progression, so the sequence of events, you get the higher high on a small time frame, you get the higher low. So retail has been able to just trade with structure through this. Breakthrough, buy stops trigger as well, sells swept, works its way back down. Right here, what is this? This is a typical break retest. So this is luring in buyers. That's why we're getting some of this momentum. This is luring in buyers. So there's more and more buyers playing out of here on the 5 minute. And remember, we have break and retest off of these levels as well. So for those, the higher time frame traders, this is luring in buys here as well. So because of that narrative, that sentiment, I could see the push again up to here, like this, just luring another wave of buyers and then making the move down. Same thing here with NQ. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking could kind of lead to the market giving like us giving back some of this. So we'll kind of see. We'll see what happens here. That's why I already have stop in profit a bit. We might even, if we want, if we get lower lows again here, maybe even dial it back again. Like just give ourselves more of a profit in a worst case scenario. But that's why where you have structure meeting in balance, these are pretty typical like conservative high probability exit points. If you get waked out, would you go for a re-entry? Let me push that question back to you. Does it make sense to do that? What would be the purpose behind it? Is it a different trade? If I would just get back in, then why would I set the stop there? You know what I mean? Like if I would just get back in because of the previous trade, then why even have a stop here? I might as well just, keep my stop open or whatever. So yeah, you got to think about the logic behind your emotional decisions, if there's any. So would I get in again just because I got stepped out? No. But would I get in again because we have, let's say, a different motive? Yes. So, for example, here, I'll give you guys a bit more, a 15-second breakdown. So, like we see, for example, the sweep up and then the drop here with NASDAQ. I'll give you guys here the 15-second with Dow as well. You see it sweeps the highs and then it runs. So, is there a chance the market gets into here? I think there's a possibility. And then what would I take though? Would I still short Dow or would I short NASDAQ? And it's just going to depend on how, if and when we get up here. So right now we're about a little under 12 minutes from New York Open. A little under 12 minutes from New York Open. You have two types of liquidity here. You have the buy side liquidity over here, sell side liquidity over here. You're starting to see it squeeze. So at the end of the day, if the market were to come back over here, I would actually end up taking I could actually trade this with a few more contracts because my stop would be a bit smaller than the original trade. So it wouldn't even be the worst case in the world either. Okay. Let's see. Right now, NASDAQ also still has this kind of reversal zone here. So NQ targeting structure imbalance. This is a pretty typical area where you might see a bounce as well. So right now, if you're, let's say, I know some of you, I think we had about like 80 or something people on the CPI, the live CPI trading. So I know you guys are sitting on this one. If here we think about what is the guarantee from here? What can you guarantee yourself? So because we're squeezing, and at this point, it could go either way, right? It could go either way. Taking out, what kind of makes more sense is to take out this liquidity first and then they make the move. That kind of makes sense. So then, does this mean, should we take some partials out of here? Collect something. What do you guys think? Or just keep letting it ride. You had already made a decision in the first place. Do we just let this ride? What's it going to be? Do we want to experience... because now, we have more and more information. So do we want to have to get back in again and have a completely different trade setup? So, okay, if we're seeing it squeeze like this, would we just prefer to keep this trade running, give it some breathing room in case it pulls back, and then just let the trade go through? That's a whole other way to approach this. So instead of having to quickly, adapt, or maybe you throw a limit on there, something like that, you're just kind of seeing it go through. So it's all about kind of adapting to the information that you have available to you. So if we know there's a probability that this could sweep the high and then make the drop, and I would rather not have to deal with New York Open, spike up and down, getting triggered in with a whole bunch of different things. I'm okay with doing this. That way I don't have to manage a whole bunch of trades. I'm not seeing a BOS to the upside, so even though there isn't a lot of demand right now for the lower time frame, I don't see any at all for the higher. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I think I like. I think we can get some noise on New York Open, whether it goes up or but it is not really enough. So right now I feel like we had the market leave behind significant amounts of liquidity. And so filling CPI imbalance and even getting to lower lows just seems more likely. Preference for today was to move my stop to profit, either stop out or close and look for a new setup. I like it. Okay, starting to see a bit more of a push. All right. And we are seeing a bit more, as of right now, a bit more bearishness on Dow than NASDAQ. NASDAQ still trading a little bit higher. Dow kind of trading closer to the lows that it made about 20 minutes ago. The likelihood of success on this is pretty solid. Okay, so let me double check my other account here. So we're looking good over here. Okay, so this is good. One sec, folks. Okay. So we're seeing another version of liquidity still building up here. Now it looks like we're about to clear these lows, and look at the difference here. NQ trading over here. So we know we're at least in the right asset with this. And now the different thing is, and I'm sure a lot of you are like, well, I'm not in a trade, Mike, so this doesn't really, you're not really helping me here. I want to trade. One, I can't force a trade to happen. And then two, what I can give perspective on, though, is the other side of this. So right now, we don't really have mitigation opportunity. So there isn't really like a pending buy setup lingering anywhere here. At least I don't have one. But what I do see here is, for example, let me zoom out here with NQ. NQ here, we had the Asian low, the London session low. So we kind of have what looks like just pretty good accumulation over here. Like just good quality accumulation at these levels. So there's one of two things that can happen. Either we just kind of get below Asian session lows, kind of just reset a new low over here, or because it looks like Dow is working its way down first. So we may see down kind of clear these London session lows and yesterday's New York session lows. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens here. But we have, CPI and London session lows. So something like this. And then, we have also CPI down here. So where was it? CPI, PA price action. So getting down to here, if we do get a big sweep down, I'm curious to see where that takes NASDAQ, because that's depending on how that moves, we may end up getting another shakeout setup, but for the buy. So mitigation as of right now isn't too apparent, except actually. Except this. So you do see the sweep down. This was before. This was, I think, Trump in China, whatever. And then the market comes up, comes back down, and just kind of, we get some sideways movement. I didn't necessarily take a position here. If anyone that has Top Step, are you guys getting temporary maintenance messages on your platform? I keep getting that right now. Huh? Yeah. Terrible time to maintain the website. So maybe we get into here and then we can kind of see something. But I would say looking at the overall big picture is more of what I want to see. Is okay, where do we push down to, if we push down to here, and then we can take that reversal once we have a bit more proof. So right now, I'm not necessarily looking to take any immediate trades. I don't really have the pending, I don't see the pending buy orders or sell orders down here. I kind of understand this one. So I would want to see something like, a sweep of liquidity, get the typical break and retest type of thing. And then, once the break and retest lures in retail, then we can kind of see something else play out. So something like that maybe would be what we could look for. All right, we're about 2 minutes out from the New York Open here. Seeing a bigger squeeze, building out more and more liquidity over here. Like I mentioned, I think seeing the move up and then down wouldn't necessarily surprise me. So ready for that. And then I'm going to have my exit set up over here, though. So here is my... All right. So remember, if you are in sells, if you're trading futures, then you want to be on the other side. So for example, 4 contracts here, 4 contracts for the buy. And then we'll see how this rolls. All right, we're 1 minute out. Let me look at the chat. What's good, chat? What up, what up? See y'all. Thank you guys all for liking the stream. Appreciate you guys. Subscribe. Make sure you guys are joining the community. All right, we're breaking below early on. Sometimes I'll notice when we break liquidity before New York Open, we'll tend to then go and take the other liquidity out too. Okay. We've officially crossed 1,300 members in the community. Pretty cool. All right. There we go. All right, New York Open, here we go. Let the games begin. So NQ with the big move down comes back up. And meanwhile, we're seeing Dow chilling. And then if you do want to join the community, click there. Tons of resources for you guys available there. Okay. So mellow drops, NQ playing out of structure. Looks like it's starting to poke above, while Dow isn't really making the same movement. So I'm curious if we're going to see NQ maybe clear these highs and then drop, and if Dow is going to be more mellow in its move up before it drops. So right now we saw sweep below, clearing buyers. Let's see if we keep doing this here, because the CPI is what I'm looking for, the rebalance. Here we go. So we're seeing Dow have a very good push down. At this point, guys, there's no point in giving all of this back. So I would rather take a good majority of this, considering how much we're seeing this go. Now NQ is following suit. Here is where we saw, and let me pull up YM real quick. But YM is already pulling back into the open of CPI. YM, and then MYM trading a little bit differently. So here we go. So being that we're here, NQ is now at a point where it's meeting structure, it's seeing imbalance fills. So right in this range, we have officially gone back to this CPI open, excuse me, for Dow. So honestly, taking our profits here actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and take my profit there, and then call it a day as well over here. Perfect. So took my money here, and then the reason was MYM, and then YM looked a little different. Like here was the actual CPI open, like right there. So we already started, and we started to lose some momentum. So these little, just like that, more than okay with taking that. And so that does, what was it, like 400 times like 20? It's good. And then let me make sure that my copy trader did that with everything, because it doesn't necessarily look like it. Hold on. This is not good. Why was it so slow in closing everything? Oh, no, this shit is just lagging. All right, that makes me happier. Cool. So look at how our in-time decision here. This is a little bit of experience. This is a combination of, and then I think I can pull up the, hold on. Yeah, once I saw us kind of starting to lose a little bit of steam here, and then, considering this was the exact open, and then we were starting to see NQ already pull into this zone as well, where we had seen some structure into the imbalance. I'm like, okay, this is great place to take some off the table. And then here we have, just so you guys can kind of see, obviously we were trading that on here live. Great trade. Thank you for walking us through the thought process from CPI to New York Open. Yeah. 1 to 9R. Savage. Absolute savage. Well done. So, hey, guys, waking up earlier than maybe a little usual, being prepared, gave you the opportunity now to take advantage of that. So, we are able to take advantage of the sells. Right? We were able to catch about, I think it was a little over 200 points. So we took it from up here. Yeah, just about 200 points. Actually, to a T. So you should, anywhere, depending on your stop, 4R, maybe 5R, depending on how you guys went about it. Anywhere from 3 to 4R, I think is closer to what I'm noticing here. So, okay, now what? Now what to do? Is that it? Well, now you have to ask yourself, do you have clarity on a different trade? Or are you just fiending? Are you just hungry for more? Are you starting to feel a little bit of the greed? You get that you just took a win. So here is a dopamine check for all of you. And here's the truth. Did you win, or did your system allow you to reap the rewards? Was it because of just you or because of your preparation? So right now, what I want to do is kind of like lower the dopamine hit, and allow you to just remember, okay, cool, let me not get too high on a win. Let me not want to go and just kind of throw money at the market again so I can feel this again. At this point, I think the most important thing is to recalibrate, get back to a neutral state. Let's assess just what is and go from there. So let's zoom out some more. Let's get a bit more context, and let's see, is there anything worth the risk now? These are the questions. Is there anything worth the risk? So what can we identify? As of right now, the move to the upside with NASDAQ and with Dow showed us that the intention behind this move up here was not necessarily to confirm bullish structure. Not at all. This was actually to liquidate sellers and then lure in buy orders. Perfect. Here, now we're going to see continuation. What we have proof on is that NASDAQ is not as bearish as Dow Jones. That's something that we have absolutely just total proof on. We're seeing the way that this is dropping way more aggressively with Dow. Even now, in this current price action, Dow's barely moving on up while NASDAQ is starting to kind of pull up a little bit. Cool. So where would a new opportunity lie here? I think that the only way I look at any other position would be if we see the market go below London session lows with Dow. So if we sweep, tons of buyers, tons of liquidity here, whether it's just these or even down here. So just kind of clearing liquidity in general. And then I would want to see, where does that take NASDAQ? What kind of price action do we see with NASDAQ? Do we see a shift in momentum? So there's really no rush at the moment to be taking anything new. And on the other side of the coin, if we do get really bearish with Dow and we continue to trade down here and we kind of see a lot of demand, we can tell like, okay, no, the price wants to settle and sit at these levels, then we can go ahead and maybe look for, new selling opportunities. Now, NQ, and I'm sure some of you maybe took a trade here too. You saw, okay, NQ is lagging. So it was definitely divergent, slower to move its way down, played into CPI's imbalance. And I know some people just love to trade these fair value gap, imbalance type of plays. So you go, okay, cool, market is back to an efficient level. NASDAQ was the kind of slower in its movement. All right, let me take this trade. Now, this isn't my type of trade at all. I don't just trade imbalances or anything like that. But so I wouldn't take that. Plus, I think there's quite a bit of liquidity sitting below CPI's open. So I'm just treading lightly with that. And that's indices. Okay. So with that being said, let's move on. So we can take a look back at this later. I'll set some alerts in case we start to move our way higher or lower. If NQ starts to get below this, then I'd like to come back to this. But for now, we can take a look at, okay, how did things get shaped up post CPI? And then also, there was a setup here that we went over on CPI. It just missed my entry, but it was with the yen. So I don't know if this ended up staying there or not, but yeah, the yen just missed my entry. It missed by, if we are looking at this accurately, it missed by less than a pip. Nice. And we saw the push down. This swept retail buyers. The move to the downside here was a 115 pip move. The move up, in my opinion, was, or based on how I see it, was about 150. So even then, this may not have been, and this looks like mitigation. This is a lot of money. So this is CPI moving. So it kind of makes sense for this to be the exchange from buyers to sellers, or from sellers to buyers as well. And this initial move here kind of looks like it. So I'm not really in any rush to take this. I think we probably can see something better. But that gives some perspective. If we look at other majors, let's see, USDCHF also targeted some of this liquidity. There's a lot more over here anyway, so nothing I'm really interested in yet. And remember, tomorrow there's PPI. So the market can just be setting up for tomorrow. We have GU pumped with CPI coming back down. Euro continuing to the upside. NZD. So, yeah, I mean, looking at dollar pairs, this is just, in my opinion, it looks like it's setting up for PPI. It's just building up tons of liquidity all over the place here. Neither being more positive or negative. Like, it's just accumulating positions. This is interesting. Okay. So AUD has now taken out all of this liquidity. So what was in May had this high over here from last week as well. So end of week, these end of week highs that it keeps making, we finally take that out. So with this big move to the upside, market works its way up here. This might be that, because there's definitely very little demand over here. So we see it spike up, come crashing back down. This could be what lures in buyers before the market sells off again. So AUD-USD, if AUD-USD is kind of sitting the most bearish, that could be an interesting play. NZD-USD looks similar, but it's created more liquidity. So that's the difference, though. NZD-USD didn't quite clear the external liquidity. It kind of just is still ranging. Whereas AUD-USD clears all the highs and now works its way back down. So if AUD-USD were to slowly kind of inch its way back up, and at the same time we could see something like NZD work its way up to here, like get above these highs, I'd like to see that. So I'm going to set an alert and see if NZD-USD clears up here. So to give you guys a better visual, what I would want to see is NZD-USD clearing highs, something like this. And then AUD-USD, while that's happening, it kind of, in a slower move, comes back up to here-ish. And then we see the move down. Maybe even like down to here. Because it's also creating this liquidity. A lot going on over here. So those are ideal scenarios. You're seeing Euro not really that bearish. GU took out some highs, screaming back down. So GBP USD could be one of those. Because this actually has been looking like, if we zoom out a little bit, kind of starting to make that distribution, trading a bit lower. GU could be one of these scenarios as well, or it pumped up, looks like only with the intention to clear previous highs, swipe, eliminate sellers, and then immediately comes back. So yeah, I'd be curious how we see the market come back up, and if sells with something like AU or GU makes sense. looks like USD CAD's purpose for the drop was to sweep sell side liquidity, come into Thursday's price action, New York open, and then nicely mitigate. I feel like I saw someone send me a chart with this setup. I want to take this one. It's the CHF. Okay, so we have that now. And what we can start to see here is we can take a look at metals. Before we do that, let me come back to... Perfect. It was like I knew it was coming. Let me come back to indices. And look at this. Now, we are witnessing NASDAQ start to crumble. NASDAQ has now gotten below CPI open, trading into what we see as these lows. Meanwhile, NQ, here's NQ, right? So it's trading around these levels. Definitely more bearish right now. At the same time, if you look at Dow is not. So let me go ahead, split screen, and I want you guys just to see the difference in price action here. Not necessarily saying you have to take any positions or anything right now, but it does look interesting. NASDAQ clearing lows, getting below CPI. This is interesting. I want to see how price action unfolds from here, because this could lead to something like this. Maybe. Depending on kind of what happens here. Dow right now definitely making higher lows. So some of you might be seeing this and going, should we take positions on Dow for a buy? Because we already saw now NQ clear the lows. Is there any, what else would NQ go for? What could it shoot for? Could it go lower? Everything looks pretty efficient over here. Looks pretty good. So this is speculation. As you guys can see, I'm not taking any positions. This is not like a typical setup in my opinion. So this is just kind of putting a couple pieces together, observing. As you can see, I have a feeling Dow can just go from here, but I don't really trade. I don't trade my feelings. I just trade what gives me like actual quality confirmations. At this point, maybe 10 years in, I could give myself a little bit more of that luxury, but I feel like that's a slippery slope. So right now, I would rather just get more information, let the market print, give us more context, and then we can see something a little different. So right now we saw the liquidity capture go down to this area, and if we end up seeing that there's very little demand over here, then cool, we may have a different opportunity. This may then become a setup. As of right now, it's like, okay, let's just let the market prove to us what it wants to do. That's what I'm thinking. Talk me down. The Dow long from down there by the wick. So right now, okay, look. Our hypothesis is looking more accurate. Cool. So it's like, oh man, I could have bought. Dude, I would have been right. But now think about if the outcome of one trade is influencing your emotions or your account that much, are you really trading? Not really. Like, what does that say about your approach? So it helps me to just zoom out and be like, all right, well, it's one fucking trade. All right, that's okay. Unless your trading system is like you win 10% of the time, but when you win, the winner is like a 15R, then and you miss that one trade you're supposed to get right, then yeah, you're fucked. But I think most of you don't have that type of system. So it's all good. Now look at this. Okay, now we swept. Very nice. Then we came up here. Very nice. We're seeing, is there a lot of demand over here? No, sir. Not really. All right. All right, all right. So we see a nice little pullback, maybe with an NQ over here. All right, then this looks more attractive. I would open my stop up because I don't like these lows are very close to one another. But we had the right thesis. I mean, I really wish I recorded the Zoom call. I just forgot to. But like I walked you guys through this step by step. Every single movement that could happen. And this move here, I would have taken the buy down here if Dow was trading a little bit differently, but it wasn't. So I was like, I don't love it. But we don't even need to have a trade down here because now we have another layer of confirmation. We have another layer of understanding that the demand below 21,964 is virtually non-existent. So when price comes back to these areas, cool. We have a pretty good chance that it's not going to stay here very long. So taking positions at, let's say, 21,950 or under makes a lot of sense. So let's say, for example, you take a position here. Or like here, I'll pull up MNQ. So you take a position over here. Like, okay, that would, for me, make a lot of sense. Well, here's where we've seen reversals before. Let's do it again. So I'd say that a setup like this, you're probably looking at max 30-point stop maybe. So let's see how the market continues here. If we get a higher high, then, I mean, yeah, it might even be a mitigation setup. And we know, because we know sellers came in, lured out buyers, right? Goodbye. This here activates sell stops. Then we see it completely rip back. So also, guys, good job on your exits. Quality exits on Dow. Excellent exits on Dow. And then here now we have further confirmations. Beautiful. We get a pullback. And we strike. As I'm looking at this here on Top Step, this one's pretty easy to create. So give me 1 second. But like when you're looking at MNQ, the lot, right? The value of one contract, one micro contract here is $2. So like you see right there. Now there's something off with this, and I don't understand what it is. Because this number should be different. So whatever. I'll have to figure it out. So look at how we're seeing price. Now we're seeing NQ work its way back down. Okay. If you have a copy trader, make sure that you're set up properly and your leader and your copy trader is the one that it needs to be. For those of you that are trading on, that's if you're trading more futures, make sure you just have the right one set up. But then if you're trading CFDs and you're using like Traders Connect or whatever, that's very, very smooth. Okay. So we saw a little pullback, starting to rally. I still have a green light if the market comes back to here, which is fine. The other alternative is that we actually may end up buying in here. So going to look at whether we get this set up somewhere here. Or we're going to have the buy somewhere in here. We shall see. Depends on how it pulls back. Whoa. Hold on. Okay, so right now it looks like Dow is a bit more bullish. So we may end up having to take a position with Dow on the way back instead of with NQ. So we'll just kind of see how price action evolves here. I don't use the copy trader for Top Step. The Top Step one, well, I do, but it's theirs. I'm trading on Top Step X with Top Step. So it's like built into it. And then with the Apex accounts, I have Replicanto. And then that is running through on Ninja Trader. Okay, so right now it looks like NQ is a bit, it's kind of dropped. Price action looks a bit more bearish. So if I wanted to see a position, I think I'd feel more comfortable taking a buy. It looks like the price action is looking better for the buys. Look at how we're trading way up here. So you have the huge sell-off, the rally. This is the pullback, and then the move. So this was a big sell-off right there. You don't see the same sell-off until later, which is right here with Dow. So we'll see. We'll see how it works its way down. Now, some of you may be thinking, so do we want to sell, though? Is there a sell that we should take? So you notice how the market, it did push back down. So we didn't see a lot of demand up here. But then when it did go down, and first we have to think in the sequence of events. So higher time frames, little demand down here. Yes, we skyrocketed and then also immediately melted. So, but either way, the momentum of the market is to the upside. Like the momentum overall is to the upside. So at this point, do I want to go against the overall momentum? Not really. We took this position to rebalance. We didn't take this position because we're bearish on the higher time frames. So sometimes we forget, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, wait, that was just supposed to be an intraday trade. So you got to always consider what's the higher time frame direction, context, and then in my smaller time frame entry, what's the alignment with the higher time frame? Because at the end of the day, there's more money, there's more liquidity on the higher time frames than there is on the lower. Okay, so that's what it looks like with Dow. And then, okay, trading upwards pretty nicely. And Q, chopping up, doing its thing. All right, all right. So yeah, now we're just gonna kind of wait, because what we could see is we could see NQ get into this area, maybe reverse, but if NQ is dropping faster, then it might even go under again, and then make the move. And if Dow is a little bit slower on the drop, cool, then we'll take that. All right. So, any questions so far? Let me know in the stream what you guys got for me. Let's see, a copy trader. Bro is in pips swimming. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and do something for you guys, just so. Let's see here. Where is this thing? So as we're going through this, look at how now we're starting to see maybe a little bit of a shift. NQ trading up here. Maybe we see Dow drop faster and NQ kind of slow down on its move. And then we get the NQ opportunity. And that's how quick things can kind of switch up. So let's stay on top of it here. What you can do in the meantime, while you're waiting, you can start to create your lot size or contract size and figure out, okay, if NQ gets to my zone, what's the size of my trade? If Dow is the one that I'm going to take, okay, what's the size of that trade? So I would consider both options. And this way you're ready. You're approaching the market prepared, having absolute awareness of either or, and then you're not worried about, oh no, I have to adapt, I have to switch, I have to, like, what should it be? Nah, you're just trading what you're supposed to be trading. So for example, if we get Dow into the zone last, I'll take 4 positions. If we get NQ into this zone here, then I'd take 2 contracts. I'm full already from TP1 diet. I love it. 7 a.m. done for the day, not being greedy. Cool. The way I look at it, and I respect people's different approaches to the market. For me, I'm in my trading hours right now, and I live under the belief that I'd have no understanding of when the market gives me the winners and when it gives me the losers. So just because I get another opportunity within an hour, I don't view that as greed for myself. That's just like, all right, well, here's just another chance. If I was trading out of the emotion of desire, of greed, it's like you have to be able to qualify your emotions, right? And so this to me is like, all right, cool, this is just the opportunity. So it looks like NQ is going to be the winner here. So let's see. Maybe it dropped down. If it keeps dropping down like this, if we see Dow get over here first, then yeah, I'll be looking to pull the trigger here. And yeah, basically anywhere from like 21,950 and under. But let's see. Can't get ahead of it. Okay. That's set. Set. All right, so now we're getting more proof that Dow wants to work its way down. Excellent. So let's see where it gets to. I wonder if it'll get below these lows. And then in the meantime, we're seeing NQ really not drop at all. So we're seeing that there's actually more demand for price at these levels rather than down here. So we saw this is almost like artificial pricing. Get into this coffee over here. So, dude, why is this thing spilling? In between the zoom and it's because this lid is kind of loose. This lid sucks. I'm like spilling coffee all over myself. I already ruined a white t-shirt. What a noob. Can interact with $1 trillion being exchanged in an instant. Can't drink fucking coffee. We all have different talents. And apparently I need a sippy cup. What's up? All right. Nancy's going to hook it up with the sippy cup. All right, let's see. Let's look at some other stuff. While this decides to make up its mind. Hey, bro, you're amazing on the charts. Maybe not at handling drinks. It happens. Apparently. I think there is a flaw in the manufacturing of these devices right now. And I do not take full ownership over this coffee situation quite yet. I am not ready to admit this fully. 10 shots back to back. Oh, God, no. Those days are over, my friend. Okay, so interesting development. We're seeing now kind of both of them pulling into the zone. Still feel like NQ it's trading significantly higher. We're definitely seeing liquidity building up over here as well. Indecision. I'm going to place an alert here for both just to see when one crosses over. Wait, did you have a Zoom call before this? That is exactly what I have said a few times during this stream. It was posted in the Tradetopia community. And it was also pinned in there. And it was an announcement yesterday about it as well. And it was announced on the stream yesterday as well. All right. Here we go. One thing that actually I want to go over selfishly here is, okay, we have Bitcoin sitting at about 110 almost. Sexy. Oh, that's a lot of liquidity here. Oh, that's the 1 minute. Hold on. What do you guys think? All-time highs today? I'm feeling all-time highs today. Maybe tomorrow. Today or tomorrow. We see all-time highs, I feel like. But I had an alert go off during, I think it was CPI, and we had, I think it was a crypto dominance alert. Was it? Oh, actually, here's the history. Yeah, BTC dominance. Okay. So check this out. We're seeing the dominance. We're finally about to. It's not quite there yet, but we're getting very close to seeing lower lows on dominance. And if we get this here, ooh, that could be the signs. Like this is just really an extra confirmation that the alts could be getting ready to pour in here. So we're getting close. All I want for summer is dog at 20 to 40 billion market cap. Same. So much same. 20 to 40 billion market cap. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be throwing a Tradetopia party for sure. Okay. ETH dominance doing well. And then what I want to look at here before moving on, what did ETH do today? So DOG picking up steam. ETH at 2,800. Sol at Solana. What was like 166? All right, cool. And then quickly recap some of the stocks that we had talked about. Wow, Chewy just dumped 12%, my bad. Holy shit. Who dumped? Okay. Well, that's actually awesome. Are you a fan of Chewy, babe? Are you got a box once? I don't know if we're a pro Chewy or anti Chewy family. I don't know if there's any you know how like some of these animal companies just be doing weird shit. So I don't know if they're one of them. But all I'm seeing is that there's a sexy buy that's pulling up here soon. Here's a 1 hour sell-off that we got on May 12th. So this here looks great for buys. Place a little alert right there. And then even if this would come back to here, you're looking at a 20% push. That's great. Very nice. Okay. Decent. This is the weekly chart. So it actually pumped aggressively and now it's melting back down. There is a possibility that this also doesn't just trade here though. It could go below this. We had August price action over here. And then some healthy movement. I'd probably do a light dollar cost average on something like this. We'll kind of see how it plays out. I'm not saying like I'm going to do a full port or anything here. But curious. When you see red numbers like that in a day, I have a tendency to be like, what's going on over here? All right, Intel, nice little 4% drop. Excellent. Nice little rebalancing here. Okay. This is one of the few stocks that I think are kind of late to the party and they've also been squeezing for a good amount of time. So this is like I mentioned, one that we could see a pretty good pop. I'd say going into 50% move is the conservative play, in my opinion. Little Intel play here. Same with Nike. And then growth. Today, Starbucks. I think Starbucks, I forgot. I saw some news about something. What the fuck were they doing? I forgot. Whatever, doesn't matter. All right, so let's take a look back here. What are we seeing? So still kind of squeezing with Dow, and then we're seeing more bullish momentum with NQ. So this is also giving me a higher probability that when we pull back, that we'll probably see Dow dropping a bit more aggressively in first, and then maybe NASDAQ a little bit slower to work its way back into this zone. So obviously we have to wait until price action actually gets there, but that's what that's looking like at the moment. We have to now wait and see. If you guys have some stocks, let me know. If you want me to look at just ones that just aren't on my list right there. And then just to give you guys a quick heads up on what's to expect here, we have tomorrow giving us PPI, which is happening again an hour before New York Open. That's really all that there is scheduled. Obviously, there's a lot that happens. Weird. There's a lot that happens that's unscheduled, like just Trump doing anything. And then another one that you have tomorrow, if you guys are London session traders, be on the lookout for GVP, GDP. Friday, we do have the prelim University of Michigan consumer sentiment and things like that. This one does a bit of movement, so we'll see. Especially after PPI, you can sometimes get some really nice reversals, mitigations. So things are looking good on that front. Okay, going back to indices real quick. Now look at how Dow has pushed ahead once again. There is no absolute certainty yet on what's going to be a better position, whether it's going to be Dow or whether it's going to be NQ. So I shall wait. Have an amazing day, everyone. Yeah, go whip up some breakfast, man. Y'all enjoy. I've dropped one more chart of gold, which I would love for you to look at in the comments of CPI if you aren't bored of me yet. Yeah, I can take a look at it. All right, and we'll wrap up here. So if you want me to look at anything, drop your chart in the... I'll tell you which post right now. And then also, if you guys got some wins with the sell-off from the CPI session that was here live, remember, we do some exclusive sessions in here. So don't miss out. You guys could have collected 3, 4, 5R on that short. I think Greg took a 9R. Looks like his stop was way tighter than mine. Okay. So thought about taking this. I didn't because I see the intention was to see liquidity now make new highs. Structure. What are your thoughts on it? All right. Let's see what you got. Sweep. Up and down. Ooh, okay. Yeah, this is definitely one of those types of trades that I wouldn't take just because this doesn't really seem to be a ton of demand. It looks like the move up here was more towards liquidating positions than to establishing like a bullish structure. So some of these, play out, but I wouldn't have had the confidence. It wouldn't have been a green light in my book. All right, so Dow just pushing. So let's take a look at this gold setup. GC. And let's see how this one ended up playing out. That was a 1 minute trade, right? You were looking at? Oh God. Did I choose the wrong? chart. Okay. So I think this is the move, right? The drop, the move. Yeah. Nah, I think you made the right choice if you didn't take this. I mean, you still would have gotten a bit of a rejection, but you probably would have ended up break even here. So I think you made the right choice. Staying out. So yeah, all right, cool, good chart. Then we had free soak gold buys. I wonder if it was the same one. Maybe a different one. Yeah, okay, you're looking a little lower. So you're zoomed out a little bit more. Sweep of the low. Continuation. So you're looking at this over here. I see, I see. So this push down. The market moves. GCQ. Here's the downside with this position is that you would be trading into possibly into liquidity, but if it does it, let's say quickly, then it would be breaking the trend line and then making the move. So I wouldn't say, like, I would say this would still could work. Let's see here. Zoom in a little bit. And then the sell-off begins right there. This is from an Asian session move to the downside. And then the market looks like it kind of already tapped into this. But, This right here looks like it could be mitigation. So now you have to decide if it, okay, this, did it mitigate? And then I wouldn't, there's no reason to trade this anymore because you saw the exchange from sellers to buyers, or this just created maybe more support and you're still willing to take the position off of where you've seen support in the past. And because there's also quite a bit of an imbalance, I can see either side. It's a risk that you'd have to be willing to take. And I am okay without this one. Like, I won't trade this just because this now what goes from, like, let's say being a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 to being like a 7. And we get enough trades for me to be like, yeah, fuck it. Look at the 1 minute. Okay. That's true. I can zoom in more and get more clarity on where the sell begins. So the sell drops into here, and then okay. See some support. You see the move up, and then it drops. So you really see the push down right there. This does trade. This change, kind of where the big sell off begins, and then now you have a better approach. Here you also get a higher high. The market trades up here. So you have a decent amount of demand as well. Market is relatively efficient. All right. Set an alert. See if it's worth some sort of risk here. I understand your setup better just because now we're zoomed in and we can kind of see where the sell-off really begins. So yeah, taking the buy here. I think it's a decent trade. I'm curious to see with how this trend line liquidity is building out. It breaking that's usually a good sign. Breaking through trend line liquidity to activate a trade and then make the move. That could be good. Okay. Awesome. Well, guys, I think if I remember correctly, TP happened live on this stream. So just for, transparency purposes, and I like for you guys to kind of see the reality of the setup. Let me go ahead here and just kind of show you guys what the trade looked like for today. Let's see here. So Let's see. Okay. All right. So here we took the setup for today. So you guys can see the entry and the exit on the shakeout play here. MYN, there was 14 contracts on this one, and then the entry, the exit. So this was post CPI shakeout, and then the exit after New York Open into the imbalance. So entry 737, exit 832. And then we'll just pull that up on the chart here too. So we had the entry here, 37, so they were right there. And then 832 exit, which was right here. So we took the exact setup. And then the same thing goes for the Apex accounts here. Let me see. How do I pull that up? I'd have to go look for it. But that's just so you guys can see, like, managing it, like, the better you get at your execution, at your theory and execution, the better things are going to look. And you know, I make mistakes too and stuff like that. So I'm not a perfect trader or anything, but you know, we're striving towards, I guess, to get closer and closer to that every day. Man, what a push here. Good movement so far. Really good movement. And then let's see here. That exit on Dow was insane. It was very precise. All right, yeah, here we go. And then let me see, where is this? So here you guys are gonna see for example, where is this thing? Yeah, so just so you guys can see here, where is this thing? And then here is today's on the Apex accounts right there. So we had a nice little 3 to 4R setup here across the board on these. So it's just for transparency, and so you guys can see we are taking these trades and not just analyzing, because it's a lot easier to just analyze than it is to actually execute. Okay, so as we can see, there was the move down to rebalance CPI. This is it. So we can now tell that despite having no demand down here, we also have very little demand over here with Dow and with NQ. So what we want to see now is basically see the market, show its signs, show it what it wants to really do. And I think, let's see, if we're looking at this here, yes, we see specifically NQ. Let me pull up NQ. Because, you know, if you're looking at the micro contracts versus just the actual, like the minis, you're going to get more precise information looking at NQ rather than MNQ, since there's more liquidity here. Now, we had that pump up here post CPI before everything drops. I wonder if we'll get a short out of here. I'm not going to take a short here, but I'd just be curious to see it. The setup looks much better. Looking for buys down here, or same thing here with Dow on this push down. So I'm still going to be waiting for buy positions, especially if we keep trading up here, if we just keep trading like that. If it reaches previous highs, if not, I'm okay with no trading today. Night shift got me last night. Missed your CPI Zoom. Yeah, it happens, man. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay out from the short. Didn't see the oil chart. Didn't see that on 1 minute. Didn't see the oil chart. Where's the oil chart? Let's see. Let me refresh. And then if you want to join the free community, click the link that's in the chat. It's pinned. All right. Gold sells. New comment. I think these were just, let's see. What's up? What's up? Round 2. What's up, Seth? Ronald, what up? Okay. All right, we don't have to recap this anymore. It's all said and done. Yeah, I'm just going to look at this oil setup and then call it a day. Compra con usted reentrada. Alfredo with the flex. Sheesh. Nice play, bro. Good stuff. I like to see the wins, folks. We like to see the wins. Guys, remember that for what you do in the community, whether it's going through the Traders Launchpad, the Smart Money Bootcamp, whether it's going through trading psychology stuff, submitting your trading journals for a month, doing all of those things, or submitting a testimonial, doing all of those things gets you $500 worth of credits towards each one of those things. Max $2,000 worth of credits towards the syndicate. So that way you get literally 2K off. And the reason we do that is so that you are actually better prepared to handle it. Because we don't want to take just everyone that wants to, hopefully make it in trading. We want to see upfront work. We want you to earn your way into it. And that's what matters the most. So that's how I'm looking at things. And then submit it once you're there. And then if you want to see if you are the right fit for the syndicate, click right there and you can apply to it and ascend into the next level. We have quite a few of you that are currently on the stream, and it is a pleasure to have you guys here. So with that being said, now you're on your own. Keep your eyes out on what Dow Jones or NASDAQ may provide later on. Maybe just set an alert. Go touch some grass. Go move the body. Maybe have been sitting here for a couple hours now. So much love, and we'll see you guys here very shortly. Remember, tomorrow we'll be live again, 45 minutes before the YouTube stream. We'll be live here. So there will be a Zoom link already provided. If you go to the calendar, you'll actually see all of the... You'll see what's scheduled. So it's already scheduled here. Zoom link's already there, so you guys can check that out and make sure you're ready for that. So don't miss out like you missed out today. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, gang.